So the first stage of the extraction process is to basically clear the bees from the boxes that we're going to be harvesting from. The main way we kind of do is to basically put in what we call clearer boards onto the hive. So we place a clearer board on the hive, we remove the box we're going to harvest, we place that on top of the clearer boards, and then we usually leave the hive boxes on top of the clearer boards for a few hours, if not overnight, until the following day, and then we're hopefully able to remove the boxes, which should be free from bees. The bees tend to have a tendency to kind of want to go through these special kind of valves or escapes on these clearer boards. It's kind of like a one-way kind of access really, so they've got a tendency to go back through them to the main brood cluster, which should be below in the brood box, and that should leave the boxes free from bees in that process really. So that's the first stage, and then we will go back the following day, remove the boxes, hopefully there's no bees within them, and then take them to a kind of a room, a sealed room, which we can harvest from. So usually that happens here at the hive. So there's a few stages of the kind of processing extraction stage. So we kind of bring the boxes into a sealed room. We then have several processes before we can kind of jar up the honey really. Decapping stage. So yeah, so the next stage is to decap the frames from the super boxes, from the honey boxes. We have a specialised decapping tray you'll be able to see in this footage, which we will kind of slice and remove the capped honeycomb from both sides of the frames. Mainly we use a kind of like a carving, a specialist kind of carving knife, a honey decapping knife. And then we kind of load those frames when they've been decapped into the extractor, and then we have the spinning extraction process, which is the next stage. So once the extractor is loaded with frames, so the extractor we use at the moment is a 20 frame radial extractor. It's a motorized one, so we don't manually need to turn it. So we will decap 20 frames, load up the extractor itself, and then we'll spin it. We probably spin it for around 15 to 20 minutes. Usually we can see if the honey is still kind of dripping from the frames when it spins. So usually we'll open the lid and we can see these kind of splatter marks on the internal drum of the extractor, indicating whether or not all the honey has been spun from the comb. Usually there's a lot of forces involved, so the centrifugal forces or inertia is kind of involved to shoot the honey from the comb and from the frames out to the side wall of the drum, which will then kind of filter through down to the base of the extractor. On most extractors we have a kind of a sealed valve that we can then pour out the honey from that reservoir at the base of the extractor, and that kind of leads on to, or kind of steps into the kind of penultimate kind of part of the process, which is to basically pour the honey into the settling tanks. So it's kind of filtering and settling the honey, which is one of the final stages before jarring up the honey. So we kind of pour it into the settling tanks. Most of our settling tanks have a cold filter, so we'll kind of bottle up after a few days, put it into jars and containers, then which we can sell it or kind of pass it on to consumers or our benefactors, etc.